Hi, this is Mike Maloney, and I've got Jeff Clark with me again, and we're going to revisit the hot topics of the day. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Great to be back with you, of course. And yes, the Bitcoin topic is one of the more popular topics that's being discussed right now. Um, some claim that Bitcoin is actually taking some capital away from the gold and silver markets. The capital that would be going into gold and silver is instead going into Bitcoin. And it is true, some Wall Street firms are starting to get behind the crypto movement. Mike, have you seen any capital going away from gold and into Bitcoin? And regardless of your answer, does that change your view of how high the prices for gold and silver may ultimately go?
Well, I believe there's going to be a currency crisis one day, and there's no central bank on the planet that holds cryptocurrencies as their assets. No central bank holds Bitcoin. Many of the world's central banks hold gold, and gold is considered a tier one asset by these banks. The most stable, trustworthy assets that there are. And the Federal Reserve, for instance, if faith is being lost in fiat currencies, then the banks that do hold gold on their balance sheets have the option of backing their currencies once again with gold. But it takes an enormous revaluation. If they stop printing currency today, it takes a price a little over $8,000 per ounce to back all of the paper dollars, the currency in circulation. And it takes a price of around $20,000 per ounce of gold to back that plus the rest of the base currency that the banks use. So if there's problems of faith in the banks, then they may need to back those. They're not going to back it with Bitcoin. So you're not going to get this revaluation by all of the world's central banks by Bitcoin. However, I believe that cryptos are, and I don't refer to cryptos as Bitcoin. I refer to them as cryptos. It's a very broad asset class of a whole bunch of different types of cryptocurrencies that are cryptocurrencies and tokens that do different things. They're created for different reasons. And Bitcoin is just one of them. And Bitcoin is basically used as a store of value and a speculation. And I believe it will do very well. And it will probably, but it's a probably. It's not guaranteed. I think that gold and silver are like the absolute sure thing. They've been money for 5,000 years. Well, they've been money for about 2,500 years. They've been the predominant currency on the planet for about 5,000 years. And they have never failed. Other currencies come and go, and gold and silver are always there throughout the centuries. And so I do see them being big winners against all of the other assets that are out there, with the exception of some of the cryptocurrencies. I don't know which cryptocurrencies. I know that whenever there's a rush into Bitcoin, it becomes very slow and very expensive. However, they've done things like developed a Lightning network and these side chains, and then there's other currencies that are going to be able to carry Bitcoin on them, like Ethereum and so on. And so there are answers to the problems with Bitcoin. I think that cryptos, many of them are going to do very well. There's going to be probably more than 95% of them that 10 or 20 years from now won't even exist. They're going to go to zero. So because there's so many that exist, and only the very best ones are going to do better than precious metals. And so that means that the cryptos are a speculation. I own cryptos. I've been buying them since 2014. I believe they're going to do very well. In episode 8 of Hidden Secrets of Money, you can see me buying my first Bitcoin in 2014. And I went back and immediately, when I got to my office, when I got back from this Bitcoin conference, it was called Bitcoin on the Beltway, held in Washington, D.C. And when I got back from that, I told all of my insiders that I was going to probably put 10% of my portfolio into cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin. And since then, it's become a larger. I'm overweight cryptos right now. Um, I'm probably going to convert some. I like to, when uh, cryptos are having a huge run up, it's nice to be able to have some profits that I can turn into something that is three-dimensional and has weight to it, something I can hold in my hand that's real, that is still there if I don't have power. If I lose my cell phone, or if there's in in Puerto Rico here, power is a very iffy thing. You get very used. The building I'm in has its own power plant because you have several power outages per week, sometimes several in a day. But it power is sort of a speculative thing in Puerto Rico. You're not really sure if it's going to be there, and so even Dan Larimer, the developer of the cryptocurrencies that do the most processing, and I'm not talking about processing as far as mining. I'm talking about processing as far as making blocks and processing the information. The vast majority of all of the information processed by cryptos on the internet is cryptos that were designed by Dan Larimer, EOS, Steemit, BitShares, and so on. He said that if there is a coronal mass ejection or a solar flare can wipe out or if we eventually end up in a real war with China, an electromagnetic pulse wipes out the power. And at that point, if you're only in cryptos, then you're not anti-fragile. You're becoming fragile. I see being in cryptos and precious metals as being much more resilient. And at this point, if you're in stocks only, or bonds only, or a mixture of stocks and bonds, you're also fragile. You want to have some resilience. And most of my precious metals I keep in storage accounts at Brink's Security. It's highly liquid. I can have the cash back into my bank faster than I can have a cash back if I sell a stock on my Merrill Lynch account. And it's connected with my Bank of America account. And still it takes longer than if I sell some precious metals. I've only sold tiny little odds and ends. I don't sell any of my core holdings. But when I had some odds and ends in storage, I was paying minimum storage fees on things that I had very few ounces, and it just didn't make financial sense. So I sold those and I converted them. Once I had the cash, I bought ounces of the same types of gold and silver eagles and gold bars. And I was amazed at how much quicker the cash was back in my Bank of America account, and Bank of America and Merrill Lynch are basically the same than when I had to sell some stock in my Merrill Lynch account. And it took much longer to get that settlement and get it into my B of A account. So it's highly liquid. It's stored. It's fully insured. It's guarded by guys with guns. So that's where I keep the vast majority. But for the extreme tail risk of an event like this, where there is no internet or no power, and this could be cyber warfare that attacks all of the servers and the internet is gone, your access to it. At that point, your access to Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency is basically gone as well. And so having both gives you the versatility. And I do believe that some cryptos are going to vastly outperform precious metals. And when you look at the way I look at things, which is through what I call a wealth cycles perspective, taking the currency out of the equation and looking at assets versus how much that asset is worth compared to other assets, to gasoline, groceries, those things, which one is performing best. And if you're doing that, you can see what's really going up and going down. In that case, gold and silver might be going down measured in a couple of cryptos, but measured against the real stuff like real estate and businesses and the stock market, I think gold and silver are going to vastly outperform those things. So I've placed, I'm not just betting on the winner. I've got like a trifecta going or something like that, where you pick, what is it, win, place, and show. Gold, silver, cryptos. I've got all three. I believe in all three. It's very disappointing and disheartening to see that there's crypto people out there that want to beat up on gold and silver for some reason, and they only pick gold and silver. They don't beat up on bonds or stocks, these things that are incredibly overvalued, that people should be running from for their lives. And real estate is in a bubble in so many areas. They're picking on gold and silver, which are fundamentally undervalued by most measures. I mean, I don't know how to measure gold as being overvalued when you measure it against the other stuff in society. It isn't. It's severely undervalued. I personally don't know how to measure cryptocurrencies. I think, though, that the demand for them in the future is going to be big because, I'm sort of an oddball. I'm in my 60s and I've got cryptocurrencies. People that are over 50 don't understand cryptocurrencies usually as well as people that are 40 and under. If you're 30 years old, in your 20s, virtual assets are just as real to a lot of these people as an ounce of gold or a house. And so that is one of the fundamental reasons that these are going to do well in the future, is that there's, some of the older guys treat cryptos with a lot of suspicion and distrust. They just don't understand what they are and how they work. I'm not one of those guys. I believe in both. I own both. And my major bet I've bet my life on gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies, because I now have a couple of stocks, but not much. I've got some silver mining explorers and a couple of other silver stocks, but it's a very small percentage of my portfolio. However, they gain leverage. If gold and silver do great, I expect them that they will. In a market crash, the stocks will go down while gold and silver go north. The stocks will go down with the market crash. But when they rebound, I mean, if your cost is, if gold is $2,000 an ounce and your cost to mine gold is $1,800 an ounce, you got a $200 profit per ounce. If it goes to $3,000 an ounce, now you've got a $1,200 profit per ounce. So the amount that gold went up is nothing compared to the amount that the profit of the mining company went up. And so it does give you some leverage, but it is a lot more risky. And I've taken what I consider a balanced risk approach. I think the cryptos are more risky. I think the fact that so many of the world's central banks hold gold as a tier one asset and trust it. And that's one of the things that they can fall back on should the world's central banks back their currencies by promising to tax their populations in the future. They're buying the treasuries of their countries. And here in the US, the majority of the Fed's balance sheet is US treasuries. So they have bought future taxation of the American people. Should the dollar and potentially bonds all come under doubt and suspicion, distrust by the population, and there's a crash in these things, then the central banks can always fall back on their gold. But it takes astronomical prices today, and they're never going to stop printing. So those astronomical prices become even more astronomical. I just see it guaranteed either way. The more they dilute the currency supply, the higher the prices of real stuff has to go. The more distrust there is in fiat currencies one day, the higher the price of gold and silver have to go in an official revaluation. So either way, you win with precious metals. I do think cryptos are going to do very well, and I don't see these things as working against each other. I see them working with each other, but covering different, covering your ass in different ways. When it comes to cryptos, taking from the gold sector, no. there's a flood of cash coming into both. That's what's happening. I don't see uh, Bitcoin or any other cryptos drawing currency away from the precious metals sector. They are both, uh, um, I think gold and silver are much more of a safe haven. I think cryptos, though, are also going to offer this safe haven from the crazy currency printing that every central bank on the planet is doing right now. They're destroying their own currencies. So that's my long answer.
Yeah, there's some very good points that you made there, Mike. For me, it's about a monetary crisis. The system is not sustainable as it is, whether you look at debts or deficits, spending, stimulus, the status of the US dollar. It's not sustainable. At some point, as you've highlighted many times over many years now, there's going to be a monetary regime change. Something's going to have to happen. And when that does, what investments do you want to be holding? And for me, the clear first answer is gold and silver. I think every portfolio needs to have gold and silver in it, and you probably need physical gold for lifestyle protection. You might actually need the physical for the kind of events that we're probably going to go through when there is a monetary regime change. Cryptos probably will do well. I think the response from gold is, I will do well.
Yes. Yeah.
That's great, Mike. Thanks for all your input. Great topic. And I'll see you on the next video.
Okay. See you later, Jeff.